been blaming my mom. She's usually stressed about everything, so.
I'm not blaming your mom. That's a fight I don't want to take.
Okay.
I want her to like me for as long as she will.
You should also want me to like you, too.
Somewhat.
Okay. Sounds good. Whatever.
I was telling Cydney that if this gets off topic, I'm not mad.
Okay.
Just to sit down and talk in general, I'm happy
Okay.
about anything you want. If you have any other ideas or thoughts. We kind of came here with a...
Well, Cydney missed like a 20-inch trout today.
Ooh.
It was pretty nice.
Well, he didn't net it, so.
Oh, was it the netter's problem or the fisher's problem?
I think
though?
it was both. Does it have to be someone's fault?
Somebody should take blame, yeah.
Well, let's blame the fish. Let's blame the fish
That
who
fish
took
was,
off with my fly.
So it's a cop-out.
Whoever tied that fly on.
It's sounding extra good today. I don't know
probably
why.
needs to take a fight.
It's sounding a lot
If you're
cleaner.
to be honest.
Oh, I tied it the exact same way you told me to. So,
Oh.
anyways, we're already
But-
off topic.
She really
That's
had
fine.
a huge trout on today. It was
Thank
nice.
you.
28, you said?
No, it was 20. It's probably. I just wanted to say 20, but
Mm.
it's probably more than 20.
20's still good.
Yeah, it was
20,
pretty big.
25.
For the pooter? I
Yeah.
mean, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Okay, so if they want you, if you want them to hear you, you have to hold the mic a lot closer.
Okay.
You don't have to hold it to your lips.
Like a
That's kind of
fist.
gross.
Is what
Okay.
I always think of. For best sound, I can turn you up more.
I'll just keep
But
it
then
at
you
my
peak
chin.
more.
Is that good?
That's fine if
okay.
you want to do that. Yeah. But yeah, who do we have here? Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Do you want to introduce me?
I'm Cydney. I was on here a bit ago. Talked
3 episodes ago, maybe?
Talked-
No, 2.
talked a lot about controversial things. And here we are again, talking about controversial things. And this is my boyfriend.
I'm Camden.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm excited to talk, and I'm here. It should be fun.
Sounds like possibly it might be more Cydney, and then you might come in a little bit, but
For sure.
however much anybody wants to come in, that's totally fine. As long as somebody's talking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Less dead space, the better, I
No.
guess,
Mhm.
for the most part. But we had a topic originally, but if we fall off it, that's fine, like I said. But with, I guess, certain events that have kind of kicked it into a lot of conversations for people, being, I guess, the SCOTUS draft for overturning Roe v. Wade
Mm-hmm.
is kind of like if I open my social media, I see it everywhere, especially like on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a Twitter or really check Facebook, but
Yeah.
like anywhere on Instagram, I see posts on posts on. I have probably mostly people leaning pro-choice just in my friend circle.
Mm.
That's just kind of how I've come across friends through life.
Mhm.
I don't have a firm stance, I guess, yet completely. I see both sides. I think, like a lot of things that get politicized, sadly, I think there's two narratives that people are forcing to compete against each other, but kind of like we talked about with the Babel stuff, we're all using words that maybe aren't the same. And when we say a certain word, we think different things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a problem of a lot of miscommunication. And when we're trying to deal with big issues like legislation,
Mhm.
communication is very key. And so I think like once we get into it, defining particular words
Yeah.
might be helpful,
Mhm.
and that will help people understand a little bit better. I'm probably going to ask stupid questions and bring stupid points up, but that's
Mhm.
kind of the whole point of just openly talking about things and trying to figure out what's actually credible, what's actually have legs to it and potent and makes sense, and what else should be kind of thrown out.
And everything is on a spectrum, right?
Everything's on a spectrum.
Everything is on a spectrum.
I think the right course is right through the center.
So we shall try and find that.
Try to find the center.
Yes.
There's definitely extremisms on both sides. I think
Very much so.
both are wrong to a certain degree,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to get the best right parts from both people will make the best decision.
Yes.
To kind of intro us into all of this, I hope that hits
Yep.
everything for the most part.
Yes. No, that was good.
First time running 3 mics, which is pretty cool.
Mhm.
One of these has not been used yet. I forget which one. Yours looks a little crinkly, so that might be that one.
Yeah, okay. I got the crinkled one, I guess.
You got the fresh one.
All of them kind of look crinkled, though.
But yeah, I don't know if you guys want to pitch anything in just to begin with.
Do you think it's like a generational thing that like different generations believe different things? Like for our generation with like Instagram, you see a lot of like people our age like going one way, and then I feel like a lot of our parents are going a different way than us. So what do you think in the generational aspect of that would be?
I think you mentioned social media a little bit.
Yeah.
I think our older parents, not quite grandparents, some of them though, their equivalent is Facebook. So I think they're still plugged in that sense. Ours is maybe more Instagram.
Yeah.
And then Twitter's kind of in between. So I think everybody's still plugged in.
I mean, with the plugged in, I'm talking more about like their ideas.
Which side they kind of lean.
Yeah, because I feel like our side of like our younger generational side is leaning towards pro-choice, while a lot of our parents and like older people are definitely leaning towards like pro-life in a certain sense, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I don't meet a lot of like my grandparents' friends that are all like, oh yeah, pro-choice, you know, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I guess I work in a nursing home, so it'd be kind of cool to survey, but possibly unprofessional at the same time.
Definitely
you know?
unprofessional. But it'd be sweet to find out.
It'd be
that
cool.
data.
Yeah. From my own personal experience, though, with family members, I have a pretty, I guess, left-leaning family to start.
Okay.
So just by the people that have brought me up, it's already been more leaning towards like a pro-choice sort of thing. Just I could picture my grandma leaning that way, and my dad, we were talking about it on the drive here because I called my mom, and they both I think would lean more pro-choice as well. And so I kind of grew up in more of a left-leaning family to get from the get-go. So personal experience, I don't see that, but I can see how
that's definitely like how I grew up was definitely different than that, where a lot of my family is right, and I don't know, I grew up like seeing all these right beliefs and all this different things, and then as I'm growing up, I'm like looking and I'm like, maybe like somebody should have a choice on that, you know, like maybe somebody should be able to choose what happens with their body and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And not saying that I would make that decision and be like, oh yeah, I would want to go and like take on doing that, but just not taking those decisions away from somebody, you know, because it's not really, who am I to say what somebody should and shouldn't do?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, one thing I do want to say right off the bat is I don't think that this whole pro-choice, pro-life concept should be a political issue, but I feel like it has been. It's not like I'm attacking you for saying left or right leaning.
No.
But I just think that it has become way too much of a political issue. And, like, everyone who's a liberal is a pro-choice. And every single person who's a Republican is pro-life. And, like, you're automatically assumed to believe all of these things if you, like, identify into one, like, political party. But, I don't know. In general, I just think it's, like, a normal human issue that we should deal with. That's not, like, a political thing.
So you think it should not be in politics at all and shouldn't be decided by the law of like what somebody should and shouldn't do? I mean, that's jumping right into the topic.
That is jumping right in. That's hard. I believe that women and men should have choices, like freedom to choose what they want to happen. But when it comes to specifically abortion, that child is like its own being. So when women say, well, like, it's my body, it's my choice, I agree.
Yeah.
Every woman should have the choice of their body. But when you are pregnant, it's not just you. You can't say that a child in the womb is also your body. Like, it has 10 fingers, 10 toes, a heartbeat, and its own unique DNA. So there's just, like, it's just hard to say, like, that you just have the choice to just kill this thing that apparently is you.
Yeah.
So, like, why you're killing yourself?
So
Like, that doesn't make sense.
So, Cydney, is there a certain point at which you think a person is a person and a person
I
is
think
not a person?
immediately at conception.
Okay.
It's a beautiful thing that the Lord made,
Yep.
in my opinion, for, like, human lives to be created. So right when the sperm hits the egg, I think that's a human.
Yeah.
I
have no opinion on that kind of stuff because I don't understand the biology and all those different types of things and stuff. So it's hard for me to have a opinion on that. And I think that when we're looking at a lot of the different political stuff, you're like, how many of these people really know the biology behind, like, oh, is that actually like something with a heartbeat, or is that just like something that's got blood going through it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No,
But
that's hard.
I just wanted to get that out there as well. At what point we decide that somebody is a human and that kind of stuff.
In my personal opinion, I think it's right at conception.
Mm-hmm.
And
Bosch, do you have any opinion on that kind of stuff? Or when do you think that somebody is a human? Because you have Cydney's opinion, but what is your opinion?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I definitely don't have an opinion on that.
Okay. You're still trying to figure out where you fall on that?
I would want to look at more scientific articles and like figure out like more about like the idea of somebody growing in somebody's womb and that kind of stuff, you know, before I'm going to make a decision on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't have a hard line. I've had two kind of thought processes when I go down this line, and one is, well, even when you're 5 years old, you don't have full rights as an adult.
mm-hmm.
So there is a gradient there between, I mean, the easy one is between, depending on your state, 15 or 16 when you get a license.
Okay.
And then 21 when you're allowed to drink and stuff like that. So out of the womb, you don't even have your full rights technically until 21. And then if you really get particular, which the devil is in the details,
25.
what, like 25, or is it 23 or 25? You can rent a car,
Yes.
as I hear that thing all the time as well.
Yeah.
So
I was just thinking about when health insurance kicks off and you get
Yep, that
booted from
too.
your parents
Yeah,
at 26.
So there's not even a hard line right now. There's been a gradient between whenever you're considered a human into this world, and then you're still considered like a child. And then from being a child, then at some point you slowly get inducted into being an adult, and then you have full rights.
Yeah.
So I could see possibly the middle road being like where a better place to fall on this might be some sort of gradient model, which might take into account more things of both sides, just to kind of hopefully appease everybody. I would like to see more biology too. I'm with you on that. But at the same time, like, you could think like, well, a month before the baby's born, that probably shouldn't be allowed to allow, you know. So
It
then
is, though.
there's a line there.
It is.
What do you mean?
It is allowed to. The child is allowed to be killed at any point.
Across the board, or is that like a state thing?
It's certain states.
Okay.
But I'm sure they're going to be. And even after you give birth, and the baby's out of your womb, you can still kill it.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. And I'd have to see the gradient exactly, but definitely like a month before, so 8 months in, seems like there should be a cutoff there.
I feel like if you've had a baby in you for even like 2 or 3 months, you should have decided by then.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I'm not trying to give somebody like that option of doing that, because I don't think that I'd ever want to do that for my life. But like, if somebody is to have that option and have that choice in their life, like, man, like, if you've had that in you for that long, like, you should have made that choice a long time ago.
Yeah.
You know, like a long time
You had
ago.
8 months to think about it, you know?
8 months is wild.
That's
like,
a long
that's
time.
That's a long time
Yeah.
to think about that. And yeah, I mean, like, you're living yourself with a huge lump on you to just be walking. I mean, think about it though. Like, it's a huge lump that you're walking around with, and that's hard to live with. You know, like, there's back pain and there's other things that you can't do. Like, That's hard. And like you're living in such a way where you're like watching out for this thing that's on you, and then in a month you're like, I don't want this. Like this is gone. Like that's wild.
Yeah.
So then what makes it like a month before you give birth? What makes that like not okay?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I mean, to me, what I think of, and this might be a bad comparison, is like, and it might be a bit of a tangent, but I think it's odd how like just we value certain animal life more.
Oh, I think it's completely bogus.
Like,
Yes.
like most people are fine if you squish a grasshopper.
Yes.
But then if you kill a rabbit, that's not as bad as killing a horse.
Right.
So we have this gradient as well of like...
Or a dog.
Or a dog, yeah.
Right.
This like maybe of size, I think that's part of it.
Or
maybe
like importance to us. That
I don't
they
know about
serve
utility
for
to us.
Yes.
That could be, yeah.
Because even where we were fishing today, you can't kill a fish right there.
That's true.
Why not?
Because it's catch and release.
It's catch and release
okay.
only. I mean,
Okay.
it's to help the population of those fish.
Yeah.
But you think about it, and I mean, at some point, we're looking at the human population.
Yeah.
And like, there's probably somebody behind it looking at the human population and being for the pro-choice, you know? Just because our population is huge and like we're taking up so many resources as humans, like it's wild.
So can you expand on that more? What do you mean by that exactly?
I mean,
like fully.
Thanos.
The Thanos snap right there. But I mean, if we're looking at even the water that we're consuming in Colorado, I mean, the Colorado River is the water supply for the whole West Coast. And like that dries out. And if you look at the bottom of the Colorado River, like it's dry. Like it used to run right into the ocean and it doesn't anymore. Mm-hmm. And like you look at all these different like crops and different things like that, like you're watching prices soar on different things just because like us as humans are becoming too much and those things are becoming too little, that it is making them become more of a luxury to have those things.
Okay. So you can have a resource standpoint.
I mean, look at what gas is right now. Like gas used to be like $2.36 and now it's at $4.
Okay.
That is a particular person's fault, though.
That's another issue we could get into.
You can make that one person's fault, but I mean, if we're looking at it like from how many humans are taking over the world, like, yeah, I just can't see there being like somebody like thinking about pro-choice and not thinking about like the resources that we're abusing as humans.
I think though, at like some people would battle back against that and say at a certain extent, once more countries, the more like things like more education you get to women, more contraceptives and stuff like that, you see almost a plateau in fertility rates.
Yep.
And so I think as time goes on, as long as we continue to slowly get better as a society, which I'm on the same point that we are, slowly overall as a world getting better, those fertility will tend to more lead to the plateau level. It's not going to continue to be exponential.
So do you think the education in America on like sex related and like that kind of stuff is not correct or not in the right place?
The education on
sex and like contraceptives and all that kind of stuff to like help people understand that like you can engage in that activity if you want, but you know, there's definitely the option of having a baby coming out of that, you know?
Yeah.
Like, because we're having a topic about like this in the U.S. and like, is there still a problem with the U.S., you know?
Yeah. And I think these are two separate issues. I was bringing up that point with resource management where, I mean, and there's a certain amount of water molecules on our Earth in general, but at the same time, while water might not multiply, the human population is going to most likely plateau, is what a lot of people theorize, which is how more nations are leading towards those different mitigating factors like contraception and stuff like that. So resource-wise, we're not going to outcompete how much resources are here with humans for the most part. There's particularities in there we could get at, but
absolutely.
But like, I think even like the birth rate in the U.S. is slowly like lowered within the last couple of years.
I mean, we're looking at how expensive it is to have a child, and
Mm-hmm.
people our age are like, no,
I'm
no
good.
thank you.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, my parents probably didn't even know what it was,
Mm-hmm.
like, or how much it was going to be to raise a child.
Yeah.
And now we're looking at it, and I can't remember what it was at the last time it was said, but I remember it was over like $1 million.
It's in the millions.
It
for
was
sure.
like $1 million to have a kid, like,
Yeah.
and support it for its entire life. And you're just like, I think I'm good. You know?
Yeah, yeah. That'll battle back, and you can see that in how like many boomers there are right now compared to of us.
Mm-hmm.
So different things like that. But I do, to get on the other topic, I do agree that we need a better education system as a whole, but then
Okay.
in the health sector as well, I think we could be doing better,
Yeah.
broad scale, but then also in particular types of classroom teachings.
Cool.
I think we could be doing better at that.
No,
Like
I
I
mean-
never got a health
I mean,
class.
Oh,
Personally.
my health classes, like, it was more of a joke than anything else. Like,
Okay.
And I wish that someone would have like sat us down and like really had a true conversation with us about it. But at the end of the day, like, high schoolers are just gonna laugh about it, and like, you're just like, dang, some of those kids should have took that seriously, because
Mhm.
like, I'm looking at some of these kids' Instagrams and stuff that I grew up with, and I'm like, if you didn't have a child at like 16, like, I wonder what your life would look like, you
Mhm.
know? Like, but yeah, it's hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's hard to get kids to engage and have that kind of strong footing on that, you know, because they're young. That's hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how do you do that without like fear? Like, because that's
Mhm.
what I feel like our parents have used our entire lives, has been fear,
Mhm.
you know?
Definitely kind of connecting to the purity stuff that we were talking
Yeah.
about, and just using more of a fear model than, I think just open information is the best for most things. And so I think you provide them with all the tools, and especially right now, just because it's so political, just both sides until we get like a good middle ground developed. And I think talks like these help kind of develop that.
Oh, yeah.
But just both sides and informed on how to use these tools and what they're for and everything like that. And then tools provided physically as well, you know?
No,
Yeah.
definitely. It's a big topic. I
Mhm.
mean, it's serious and it's real, and it's definitely scary. Cydney, you got anything?
No, I'm just listening.
Yeah, and I'm not decided, and I was thinking about this recently in a different light, because recently as well, before even the political stuff blew up, I learned that I wasn't really planned when I came into this world. And so if I take an emotional approach, it makes me want to come at it with a pro-life approach, because I'm thankfully here, and my mom didn't this, and Mother's Day's here, which is connecting
Thanks,
in a well
Mom.
as well. Yeah. I called her and I was like, thanks for pushing me out of your vajayjay. That's literally what I told her.
Nice.
And yeah, it wasn't planned. And off topic, it kind of like lifts a weight off your shoulders, because like if you just do a little bit of good, then it's a net positive, because I'm not even supposed to be here right now. You know?
That is so.
But
No, boss, you're supposed to be here. You're a good dude.
yeah, thank you.
I've heard a lot about you.
Thank you. So if I take that, and if I like I get a quick emotional response from that of, we should give everybody the chance to come into this world, which then makes me lean more pro or anti-abortion, I guess. But then I have a libertarian side, I guess, to me, where I'm just like, let it open and give people information,
Yeah.
but let people decide on their own. And so then that battles back, and I think that's more logical, and that's kind of why I line up with that. So I think in the end, that wins out over me. Yeah. So, yeah, my like initial thought is just let them all be born. Let's try to give them resources and move from there, and let the child then dictate their own lives once they finally get older. And have a chance,
Yeah.
you know, which is kind of the pro-life argument in a sense. But then I don't want that to take away the right then of the women, you know, because it's a tricky, I guess it's kind of like a tricky balance of giving the unborn children rights, but then also giving the living mother rights as well. And there's no fair balance. I don't know. I guess the most fair balance is leaving it open, because then, and this is still an idea I'm working out, but it's still like freedom to choose, which I believe in as being more libertarian than most things. Like, I think a lot of off topic, like a lot of drug things should just be opened up, and we should have a better education behind what these things actually do to you, and take out a lot of this fear stuff that isn't actually clinically proven. Because
that's definitely interesting. I would definitely argue against that.
Yeah, we
like,
could have another talk on that too.
Well, like, if you're thinking about like psychedelics, you're like, oh yeah, definitely, like, cool, like, let those be free. But like the different ones, like coke and heroin and meth, like those ones, like, I'm like, no, dude, don't bring those into my country. Like, I don't want to see the people that are doing those. Like, I don't want those people like struggling with that kind of stuff, because that stuff's not something that you quit, or it's not something that you just do once, you know. But like, if you're just gonna go and do like shrooms or LSD, like, sure, go ahead and do that. Like, I don't care. Like, I think that should totally be legal. But something that's taking part of your life and creating your entire identity and like being the only thing that you can think about or the only thing you can do, like, nah. I mean, I've just watched too many of my friends in college like doing really hard stuff. And like, that's not something that I want to be legal, you know. I would never vote for full legalization of like wild drugs, but like anything that's psychedelic, I'd be like, yeah, sure, go ahead.
It's not similar in the addiction sense, but I think it is similar in the sense that I think you could make it a comparison for the most part that whether we like it or not, the abortion's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
No matter what.
No.
Like some people were estimating there'd be like a 10 to 15% drop, I think I was seeing, in like the amount of abortions that were given, which isn't a big impact when you really like look at the scale of things. So then it's like, if this is overturned, then the waves that it makes isn't actually big, you know, which is interesting. But then at the same time, like to make the comparison, the drugs are still going to be here whether we like it or not. It's just going to be unregulated, and there's counter evidence to the potency of addiction with those particular substances, especially when it's actually in pure forms. And then at the same time, we still have legal painkillers that is almost its own bigger problem that is opioids. Prescribed. So that's something we need to shake out in itself. But if we had a better investment, and now we're kind of on a tangent, but that's fine.
No, I was going to shoot back with a question after.
Yeah.
Wait, but I also have stuff to say, so let me chime in once in a while.
All right, Sid.
If we had a better investment in drug testing facilities, I don't know if you've heard about those much, that and there's a technical name for them. Drug testing facilities, though, is where anybody can come in, no legal ramifications at all, and you can get your substances tested. Okay. And then what that does is, for one, informs the individual of what's in their substances, and a lot of like, for example, heroin overdoses are actually overdoses on fentanyl. They're just being laced, and fentanyl is about 100 times more potent than heroin itself, and it's cheaper to make. That's why it's cut with that. So the testing facilities would help people rely on better substances, which isn't good, but it'll lower death risks, which is good, because they're going to use it whether we like it or not. The kind of war of drugs has kind of proven that.
Oh, and absolutely.
The other one is, I think there's a technical name for it, but there's use facilities as well, where you can go in and use. And then if you overdose, they have medical professionals there, which there is an argument against it with like that condones the use. But again,
what kind of use are we talking about?
Use of any substances. And other countries have implemented these facilities. So any like heroin, whatever
I guess
you want.
that's smart. I mean, if you're going to go and use something and like that's something that you have to do.
Yeah.
Might as well have a medical professional look over you while you're doing that.
Yeah, it's basically like doing it in the hospital instead of the alley.
And figure out what's actually happening in these humans. And I guess you're just being subject number one.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But those two things would help mitigate if we did legalize them.
Yeah.
And then also regulations on what substances are put out onto the market would help as well.
Definitely.
So that's my take on that. Sid?
Anyways, back to the original topic of not drugs.
Okay.
I would like to just put it out there that pro-life does not, in my personal opinion, mean that we are like anti-abortion. It means that we are pro-life. Whatever that means, animals, humans, life, it's called pro-life. So, not sure why we just apparently made this whole thing. And I think that pro-choice is pro-women having a choice, not pro-abortion necessarily. But yes. And then relating back to your whole emotional story or whatever you were saying about you being an accident. Well, I mean, I think that many things in our lives can dictate or influence like why we think certain things. And for me personally, I mean, I was adopted from China, and at the time that I was born was the one-child policy in China. And during that, you know, you would get in huge legal trouble if they found you having more than one kid. And also, this is still common in China, but like this whole like favoritism of boys than girls. So I don't know why like I was given up for adoption. I don't really wonder why, but I do know that during the time of being a female and being a one-child policy, they could have had two, like I could have been the second kid. I could have just been, because I'm a girl, who knows. But during that time, a lot of the government was going through and forcing women to have like abortions just on the streets. Very unsanitary, very wrong in my opinion. So like I know that my parents fought for their whole lives just for my one life, just to be born. They didn't have to. They could have killed me. It would have been way easier. But not only did they like give birth, which is also just another whole task that men will never understand. So let's just put that out there. Not only carrying a literal child for a whole 9 months, sometimes more, but also giving birth, which is actually the worst pain that anyone could ever experience. So I've heard. Obviously I haven't experienced that. Thank goodness. But they also like put me in a place where I would be found. So they didn't just throw me in a freaking dumpster. So they were very purposeful. So yes, I mean I have a big reason to be pro-life and anti-abortion, I guess. Just because I don't like in those circumstances my parents still fought hard as hell to just give birth to me. And in most cases, abortion is just out of inconvenience. Because a teenager gets pregnant because they weren't smart, and they get pregnant. And they don't want to have a child because it's a big responsibility, which it is. That's why you're supposed to use birth control. And they just don't want to have the baby, and they just get an abortion out of inconvenience. It's true.
So do you think that universal healthcare has to do anything with abortions and that kind of stuff? Like, if we're going to talk about abortions and we're going to talk about pro-life versus pro-choice, like, if you're going to be pro-life, I feel like you got to be pro-universal healthcare as well. Because, like, some of those kids that are being born that are, like, would have been otherwise aborted, like, might need healthcare as they're growing up. And, like, might not have healthcare from the parent that they're being born from and that kind of stuff. But, yeah, I would just like to talk about, like, universal healthcare versus not universal healthcare and that kind of stuff.
I mean, I don't really know what that would look like, but I do think that healthcare is very important, and I think that, I mean, even in America, let's just take America, for instance, there's many people who don't survive without healthcare, and then let's imagine third world countries who don't, like many people who don't have like any resources, not even clean water and not even like anything. They definitely need it and deserve it. I feel
They
like.
definitely deserve it. I mean, whether there's doctors in those areas where there's not clean water
Yeah.
is a big question. But I mean, just speaking from America's standpoint, like if we're going to be pro-choice or pro-life, like if you're going to be pro-life, you most certainly need to also be pro-universal healthcare to like help out that child as it's grown up.
Oh yeah. No,
To
for sure.
be just pro-life and then be like, oh yeah, no universal healthcare. Like I feel like that's something that like parents like my parents are not for universal healthcare and they are definitely for pro-life, and I'm just like, this is wild. Like that is two very different opinions on that, and I just feel like it's not touched about, you know. Just thinking about it, I'm like, that's really sad that that child isn't going to have healthcare growing up, and that's scary. And that's like how long is that child going to live without being in like serious debt before like it even gets out of like high school or college? Like that's wild.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
think about how many times you went to the emergency room as a kid. Like I know there was like a summer where I went to the emergency room like every single like month, at least once a month, like get stitches in a new place or just figure it out. And that would be so expensive if I didn't have healthcare. But yeah, it's just you have to think about the different things about having a kid and that kind of stuff too. But I definitely think that you got to think about the healthcare system as well.
Yeah, yeah. And not to put you guys against each other, but it sounds like you have a little bit of a disagreement, or not disagreement, but maybe see it a little differently.
No,
It
I
would
mean,
be
Well,
a
I said
better
yes
way.
on universal healthcare, but I do agree that I think some of our beliefs might be a little bit different.
Yeah. Well,
Our
it sounds
beliefs
like you
might
lean
definitely be-
a little bit more pro-choice.
I definitely am going to lean pro-choice.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to like make a decision on somebody's life whenever we don't have the healthcare in place for somebody to actually like succeed. And I'm just like, I don't
But
wanna-
that doesn't mean that they're not worthy of life.
No, it doesn't.
We shouldn't just kill them off just because they might not have healthcare.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. I think that everybody deserves a life, but like, I think if somebody's going to make that decision, they can make that decision. And like, if they're going to be put into a huge like financial position with that, like, I mean, you've heard me speak about how expensive it is to have a kid,
Mhm.
and then like
Yeah.
how expensive healthcare is. Like, yeah, I'm not going to put somebody in a position where I'm going to make that decision on their life, you know? Like, that's life altering, life changing. Like, that's
So
huge.
is killing a baby.
No, so is killing a baby.
That's pretty life altering in my opinion.
But I think if we are going to, like, have these laws where you can't kill a baby, like, we also need to have universal healthcare that's easily accessible and not just like, oh, you got to sign up 1 week in November and then you can have healthcare. Like, what if somebody forgets? Like, what if you need healthcare later on, you know?
Mhm.
But yeah, I definitely like have different opinions on it at this moment.
Yeah.
But if our healthcare changes, like, my opinion is going to change, you know?
So
Mhm.
only based on healthcare, you believe that children should live.
I think that I wish that every child could live, but I just see a lot of different things happen where kids grow up without healthcare, kids grow up without like supports and different things like that, and then you just watch like criminal stuff like happen, and you're just like watching different rates of that stuff just increase, and you're like, that's scary. Like, that's scary too. Like, you know, I want good supports to be involved for those children.
Okay, well that's a great introduction to what I wanted to talk about next.
Wait, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I feel like it's a bit disingenuous to jump straight to that they're all going to be murdered.
Okay, well,
It's a leaving
well, I
the
was talking.
choice
I wasn't
up.
talking about all.
Okay.
I just meant all of the children that are going to be murdered because
Mm-hmm.
the freedom is out there
Mm-hmm.
just because they can't have health care.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I guess what I'm getting at is that if you take like a scoop of
Oh, no, not a metaphor.
what will actually take place, like in reality, the drop once this thing is overturned is not actually going to save all of the abortions that would have been made. There won't be a 0% rate of abortions when this thing goes over.
I understand that.
So it's going to happen anyways
I
for the
understand that.
most part.
I understand that.
Okay.
But we're not, I'm not talking about like the laws right now at this moment in time.
Okay. Just
But we
morally
could
then?
start talking about that. We're talking just in general pro-life, pro-choice.
Okay.
Without the laws of whatever.
Mhm.
Just what we believe. If a child should be,
Yeah.
like, if their life should be worth,
Yeah.
like, being brought into the world or not. Just because of the mother.
Mhm.
So,
I gotcha.
Yeah.
I think I'm just trying to put it more into how reality will dictate things go about within the country.
yes.
Where like
I don't think that, like, any laws are going to make all children from everywhere in the United States be born.
mhm.
I don't believe that. And I that's not, yeah. I'm very much, like, aware that even if whatever happens, there will still be abortions, and they
Mhm.
will, and they might be, like, very not sanitary, very not good for the mother at some point. So I understand that the reality is that abortions are never going to stop, like, happening. But my main view is that, like, children should be born. They should be, like, they should
Mhm.
be given the chance at least,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
So, yes.
That is the argument I do see on the like pro-life side is that like it's hard to weigh how stable you want life to be when a kid comes into this world, because then you can make like the argument of like lower income families in general should be, and it's a dramatic stretch, but should be taken out because they're not doing well, you know?
Like, killed?
Yes.
Oh. I've never heard that before.
Well, if you push
I'd
it to
get
its
killed.
extreme, yeah. Well, if you push it to its extreme,
We'd be dead.
You,
Low income?
me or you?
Both of us.
Low income?
We're not the high income right now. We don't have high income coming in right now, do we?
Well, we're adults, so we're fine. But if we were to have a kid, then our kid would definitely.
But are you
They're-
talking about children or adults?
He's talking about, like, the child that comes from the adults.
I guess what I'm trying to say is like if we grade it on we want them to have the best life coming into this world, at a certain point, not everybody's going to come into this world having all the resources available to them. So then there's a cutoff point of like what is enough resources, what is lower resources, and then if it's we decide whether a kid should come into this world based on if the mother is resource available, then that'd be an argument on like if any people don't have resources available, should they be here? You know, that's what I'm trying to connect it to. Maybe I'm not doing it well.
Yeah. I understand.
Okay.
So
That is just...
but that's why I sympathize with the pro-life, where it's like just because you don't have resources, you should still be on this earth. That's where I'm trying to connect it to you.
Right,
where
because then it's like...
I
if
see
you
that
don't,
point.
If you don't have the opportunity to get resources, and then you're stuck at the same, like, level your whole life, then apparently you're not worthy of being on this earth. So then we could talk about people of color, because people of color have a really hard time, especially African American black people. They have a really hard time because, well, they were enslaved for years and years.
Are you talking about economically hard time, or can you define
A lot
time
of
more?
hard times, all the way around, I would say.
Okay.
And it is very hard for them to... They probably will never get to the same level as white people. And I think many people can agree with that. They've just been set so far back because of how they were introduced into this country. So, I mean, it's very much harder for a black man to get resources or even a job than a white man. So then if it's like just on the basis of like that, like things you can't control, then they should be wiped out of this earth. Or what about people with disabilities? I mean, like they I don't know really what to say about that, but like there's just so many different circumstances that we could pick and choose. And then it's like, all right, well, everyone except for white men can stay on the earth. I guess, because even women are minorities and they still have a hard time getting resources. So
Women are minorities?
yes, women are definitely minority.
In what fashion?
What do you mean?
In what way are women minorities? Is what I'm asking.
Jobs, society. I mean, those are the two main ones, but
What's wrong with there being an unequal distribution in labor for men and women?
because the distribution favors men and not women.
How does it favor men?
Because men are supposedly seen as more capable of doing certain jobs.
We value men more?
Yes.
And
At least in America,
so
I would say.
If we valued men and women more equal, we'd see a more even distribution of our labor force on a gender split.
I would say so. And then women getting paid less just because they're women, or treated not as respectfully because they're just women.
Mm-hmm.
So
Even though that's not how things work?
are you talking about day to day?
Like
nowadays?
The more egalitarian a society becomes, the more the gender differences perpetuate.
Okay. What? Okay. I don't like that we're getting off topic. Just in general. That can be another conversation. I promise.
No, just to outline what I'm saying, we've studied more like the Scandinavian countries and I think France, and there's a couple others, and they're the most egalitarian we have right now. And what you see is on career choices, but then also personality differences, the margin gets larger the more egalitarian a society becomes than when a society is less egalitarian. And so if we were to smooth out the playing field the best we can within a society and use those as models of knocking that out, we don't see that decreases. We see that the margins increase. And that's because there are slight differences into how we choose jobs. Men depend, as a generality, men depend more on things and like to work with things within the STEM field. That's how that manifests within careers, and women like to work with people more, just in general. And you see these things increase in rates the more egalitarian things are. That's where I'm coming from with this. Is why I will push you on that a little bit.
Okay. Thank you for your input. Anyways, back to the children.
You don't have anything to add?
No, because that's a separate conversation that I need more time to think about.
Okay.
So.
I mean, me and Cydney are complete opposites on that as well. Like, I will work with people for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And Cydney will work a different style job
Yeah.
that is seen to be a man's job.
Mm-hmm.
Most
Oh
of
yeah,
their life.
he's in a women-dominated field, and
too.
I'm going
Which
to
is
be
so wild.
and I'm going to be in a men-dominated field.
Mhm.
So that's just
So yeah,
How
you're
it is.
speaking to
The exception.
the exception.
mhm.
But the exception's not the rule.
The exception is not the rule.
No.
But anyways, back to the children.
to
So
the children.
in that instance, we were just talking about how yes, people who don't have enough resources, but that is a very good point, because yes, I understand that the whole conversation of being a pro-life person of that belief should be much more, in my opinion, than just, okay, so all babies should be born. I don't, there are so many different factors.
There's
So
many.
with
We can-
healthcare, I think that is important, and resources and all of these things. Because if you want children to be born into the world to have a chance at life, you should want them to have a good chance at life.
100%.
So I understand that, and I agree with that. So
And that's why I'm not going to be like, I'm for one side or the other, but I definitely am going to.
I think I remember you telling me that you were more pro-choice, actually.
I mean, but at the end of the day, it's until our healthcare changes, because like think about a kid that comes out of the womb and is sick and needs healthcare right away, and that kid's gonna die either way. That kid is gonna die either of the illness that they've had as they're coming out. Like, what about that kid? Because we can go into a lot of these what ifs and that
We
kind of
can.
things.
We shouldn't, though.
We should
That's
not.
way
That's-
too specific.
That's
but,
why I'm saying we need to talk about healthcare on a broad spectrum.
But for that specific situation, let's say that kid came out of the womb and the kid was sick.
Yep.
And if you're taking the abortion standpoint, if you just aborted the baby right off the bat, right when you found out you were pregnant or whatever, you wouldn't have, like, there's just so many things.
You wouldn't have
Yes.
gotten to know.
Yes, there's so many arguments, which I have heard many arguments being, well, what if the kid is going to have a disability?
Yeah.
Or what if
he
the
needs
kid
therapy for the rest of his
Is
life?
going? Everyone needs therapy.
No, I'm talking
So-
about like therapy for the rest of their life, from
Well,
early childhood to
Okay.
like
Yes.
like late adult. Like, what if
Yes.
that kid needs therapy to?
Yes, and that's expensive.
Yeah, that's
what
super
if,
expensive.
What if the kid
We're talking
is
not $1 million. You're talking like
Uh-huh.
a lot of $1 million.
What if the kid genetically has like a drug addiction because of their parents or their family? So all of these things, I've heard many people be like, well, you know, if the kid's gonna like grow up with an addiction like that, they should just like be aborted before. Or, you know, if a kid's gonna freaking have Down syndrome, well, then they should just be aborted. Which, hell to the no. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Everyone who is ableist can, well, not be aborted, but
Yep.
that's very rude of you, people listening. That is very rude. And just all of these things, like if a kid is going to grow up in foster care because of resources or healthcare, I understand yes, apparently just all of these things. You can't, but it's so hard. You can't dictate all these things. There's no guarantee that the kid is going to have a disability. And even if they did, who the hell cares? They're still a person.
Yep.
So,
And that's why I think that I'm going to give those people the choice of what they should do. But for me in my life, like, I'm going to choose to not do that. But I definitely would love to see the healthcare change. The healthcare,
yes, okay, we get it.
the healthcare in the United States change. Just
No,
so
I
that
agree.
those, like, the ability to have a kid and to have success in life, like, should
Yes.
be leveled out. And
No, I agree. But that's the thing is like people dictate if children aren't going to have the resources
Yep.
or the right health care,
no.
then they should just be like aborted before they just go into a whole life of like foster care or
They
whatever.
should just use contraceptives.
Well, everyone should
Yeah.
actually. Yes, in general, but it's just it's such a far stretch in my opinion to just be like, well, that kid's probably going to have drug addiction or like that kid's probably going to go in the foster system. So and it's like, oh, okay, well, then if all the kids or adults who are drug addicts or were in the foster care system, apparently they're not deemed worthy to be living.
No.
So then, and then all the people with disabilities, they aren't deemed worthy, which some messed up people do believe that. But I'm just saying, like, we're comparing human lives, precious little babies in the womb, and they're not deemed worthy of living because of all of these possibilities. There's so many possibilities. They could grow up and murder someone. They could grow up to be the president. They could grow up to blah, 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 blah. There's so many possibilities we can't, like, pick and choose. And then if we're comparing these precious lives in the womb and saying they're not worthy, why are people who are out of the womb worthy? Because then all drug addicts need to be freaking killed off. And
On site.
yeah, no, well, I'm just saying, like, I don't understand the whole, like, they're not allowed to live because they're in the womb, even though they're a human being. But then people outside the womb, apparently there's, like, a line where people are like, well, they're, like, great and living and adults, so they're allowed to be living because they were allowed to live. Duh. So, like, it doesn't make sense. In the womb, out of the womb. apparently it's not the same. Which doesn't make sense to me, in my opinion. Does it to you? Anyone? Or am I just like crazy for thinking that? Because it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. It definitely is. I don't know. I just feel like I float right back to like the quality of life and success of life and that kind of stuff. As soon as I get into this kind of conversation where I'm like, I want the best quality of life for everybody. And I wish that I could say that everybody that was born today would have the same quality of life and the same ability to like get a job and do all these different things. But it's not true in our world. Like, our world is not like that. Like, but yeah. I always just want to like vote for quality of life. And yeah.
Okay, right. I understand that. I want everyone to have the best quality of life too. But then everyone who doesn't have the best quality of life should just die.
No.
Right?
I think another difference I see between you guys is that the difference of how much you're sold on your current position, maybe. And there could be a better way to phrase that, but you seem pretty determined. And I think you're choosing that pro-choice because you'd rather just leave it up to the people choosing.
Yeah.
And because maybe you have a little bit of your own research to do, and before you make
I'm not going to make that
your
choice
final
for somebody
decision on whichever way you lean, you kind of would
100%.
just like to leave it open.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you have, I don't want to use the word casual, but like maybe you're more determined for sure. And then you're
He's still
definitely
open.
You're
I definitely am
definitely
casual.
still processing
Definitely
this idea.
casual as
Yeah.
I'm trying to watch and see different things change in our world.
Mhm.
Definitely trying to hope that I can make a change, because I would love to see it be somewhere where everybody has the same choice of life and
Mhm.
everybody has the same quality or the same chances to like grow up and live the best life they can, you know. But yeah,
Mhm.
still open.
Yeah. No, and that's fine.
Yeah.
love
I
it.
won't be closed off. Like
Mhm.
I don't think
I'm
that
not closed off either.
Mhm.
I'm just very passionate about it.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
taking all the things you're saying,
very
and I'm
passion.
like that.
Big passion.
That's who I
Super
am.
passion.
But abortion is murder. You're killing a life. Whether it's a human life or what, we kill a rabbit or a deer on the side of the road, and apparently it's still murder. But it's not a human life, so it's still murder. And so why is it like illegal, like really illegal, to kill a person, like a human adult or child, but it's not like, well, kind of, but like then if things get overturned or whatever laws change, then it's not illegal to kill a child in the womb. You know? Like, it's still murder. So then we just get to pick and choose how old a person has to be for it to be murder?
Yeah, I think I'd have to look more into the biology stuff to really know and have a say in that. What is murder and what is not murder, you know? And yeah.
I remember way
That's fine.
back when, like within the first month that we knew each other,
Yeah.
we talked about abortion.
Yeah.
Is what I'm remembering.
We talked a lot
very
about
briefly.
deep things, yes.
And maybe it was just I interpreted it wrong, but I feel like I got somewhat of a point to you where you asked me some sort of question on it, and I was just like, I don't feel like it should be dictated by a government, the national body. And I think that kind of hit you. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Like, what do you mean it hit me?
I don't like. Maybe to me it sounded like it was a perspective you hadn't heard yet at that time. Maybe is what I mean by that. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's just how it sounded after
Like,
I said
hadn't
it. And
thought
then
about it, like, generally being in the hands of the government, or
to me that's how it sounded to me. Where like maybe that idea hadn't crushed. Nobody brought that idea to you at that point, and then maybe I was one of the first people to bring that to you, and you were like, "Oh, I kind of see that idea." That's my interpretation of it, at least.
like the idea of what?
The concept that wherever the decision lies, maybe we don't have the decision lie at the national body.
Oh. See, that's hard.
And I bet you've probably gained a better
That's why
perspective and opinion on this, but it
That's-
seemed like
yes.
back then you
I
That
mean,
was maybe
probably,
new. Anyways.
probably not new, but I probably haven't given it much thought, and that's why I avoid talking about the whole laws thing. Because and that's why I have just such a hard time with this whole entire topic, just because I do believe that life is valuable in or out of the womb. I believe that every child should have a chance to live, at least. Oh, that's
No,
okay.
We're pointing our mics away from.
Okay.
Just
okay,
a little
okay,
bit. That's
okay.
all we're doing.
Okay. And yeah, it's hard. I don't believe that, like, the government, and the government being mostly male-dominated, white male-dominated, should be, like, yes, like, taking away the freedom of, like, women's choices in their bodies. I do agree with that. The hard part is that it's murder, and so it's not about... Yeah, that's why it's just so hard, because I'm all for women having choices to do whatever they want with their body, but at the time of, like, conception...
But it sounds like you're not for this choice being available to them.
Well, see, that's why I'm so confused.
Okay.
That's why I don't know.
Okay.
That's
okay.
why I'm trying
That's
to explain.
fine to not know.
I don't know where I'm at.
Okay.
I don't think I ever will be, because I'm very for women to... Anyone, not just women, but anyone to have a choice to do whatever they want. And so that's why I'm like, I don't think that, like, certain people involved with abortions need to be, like, I don't know, criminalized for those things necessarily. It's just I do, yeah, I don't know. I just, like, it's murder, so it's like, it's kind of hard to not hold that to the same standard as murdering, like, people out of the womb.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know where I'm at. That's why I'm just very conflicted. I don't know.
That's fair. And it's fair to be undecided, you know, because it is a complicated issue that has now been politicized, which makes it complicated in itself. I guess my tack is always trying to dial it down to the individual as much as we can, and then if we have to, familial, and then if we have to, community, and then if we have to, state. And I think at the biggest level, this should be a state's issue. Which then technically, if you look at it, I would be in favor of it being overturned, because then that would leave it up to the states and not be a national Supreme Court decision. And I'm not even so firm on that yet, because there's a side of me that just has a, I guess, free market bent, where it's just like the states that want it can have it, and the states that don't want it don't have to have it. And then I would hope people would choose the state they would want to align with more, and then people bring up issues of moving and stuff like that. But I was talking with a friend the other day, and they were like, well, we were kind of talking about, well, there's already states planning on producing funds to help women get abortions in other states. So there's already like a reach out effort from those pro-choice states that would be into pro-life states. So that's an interesting dynamic in itself between states, you know.
Yes.
It'd be, and yeah, maybe it's probably not best at the town level, because you can just travel pretty easily, because anybody
just drive 10 minutes to the next hospital.
Just 3 hours down to Denver or whatever the safe haven is. So that's probably not the best. I think
people are going to do that either way.
Yeah.
Like, people are going to drive out of Colorado.
Yeah.
I mean, if Colorado would probably be pro-choice if we're going to think about it real. But I mean, if you look at different places that are going to be not pro-choice, like Montana and other places that are super red, like those people are just going to drive down to Colorado and just get it done there.
Yeah. And that's when you look at like the reality of what this will actually look like.
It's not going to change much.
Yeah. And then
our decisions in a like level of like deciding these laws like isn't going to decide much. I mean, it's the same thing with your drugs. It's just like might change the purity or the different things that are happening, but it's not going to change much.
And then you probably would see the influx of also just mail-in pills as well. So even if you don't have transportation, I would assume states would set up funds to send such things to people as well, which
You're going to have not just people aren't going to be dealing weed anymore. They're going to be dealing Plan B.
Plan B pills.
That's
yeah.
wild. Like that would be crazy.
Yeah.
I think I kind of have more of an understanding of where I stand.
Okay.
I think I'm definitely pro-life, and I'm pro-choice.
Okay.
But the pro-choice of the woman's body. And my point being that...
She should always choose for the life. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
Okay.
Well, like, my point being, disregarding the whole pro-life side of me being pro-choice, I do believe that women should be able to choose
Okay.
what they do with their own body.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have a child in your body, it's not your body.
Mm.
That's what I'm saying.
So do you think that thought process would lead to then a criminalization of women that get abortions in a place where they shouldn't?
That is a great idea. Well, see, that's the whole thing, is like, I don't like to consider the whole criminalization legal part of it, just because it's hard. I don't think that they need to spend like 20 freaking years in prison or sometimes go on death row because they murdered their child.
So is it less of a criminal penalty to murder a child than it is to murder anybody else? Like if you were to go murder somebody, is that the same as you murdering a child?
Well, yes, I would agree.
Okay, so why are the penalties different?
Well, see, I don't know what the penalties are supposed to be. That's why I'm just like, I don't know who should be penalized or criminalized. I don't know. I mean,
let's say you kill somebody, that's life in prison. Or like close to life in prison. Let's say you have an abortion. Is that life in prison?
Even 20 years is a lot of time.
Even 20 years is a lot of time. I mean, we're
Whatever
talking
you wanna
about
call
like
it.
something that's going to change somebody's life. Like 10 years is a lot of time to be in prison. But like if you murder somebody, you're going to be in prison for a while.
Yeah.
Like, but if you have
that's a great point.
If you have an abortion, is that the same? Like, are you going to be in prison because you had an abortion?
I mean, that's not up to me.
Well, I mean, we're asking you.
I mean,
because you're saying that
with
there's similar
right.
crimes. Yeah.
Yeah, with the pro-life stance that I have, being that like there shouldn't be a difference with an unborn child than a child out of the womb. I mean, I would say that you should face, like, killing a child is different than killing an adult in legal terms, like with penalty.
I mean, if we're to talk, Bosch, would this be a spectrum of like what you'd think?
No. I'm not saying a spectrum. I'm just saying like within the law side of things, your time in prison is going to be different. It's not dictated
based
by
off
me.
Of how old the person is that you killed.
Yes, I believe so.
What if they're really old? Like, what if they're 85 and about to go?
I haven't
Is
studied it. I don't do murder.
Is that less time in prison?
I don't do murder. I'm not studying murder. I'm just saying.
I'm asking
to my
from a personal perspective, Sid.
From a personal perspective, I think that yes, I do think that being criminalized should be done if you're murdering in or out of the womb.
But I'm asking, is it the same as murdering a human being? Like if you were to go murder somebody?
I don't.
Like should
what
you
do you
sit
mean?
30 years in prison if you have an abortion?
Why is it any different than killing someone out of the womb?
I'm just asking what your opinion is on it.
I just said I think it'd be this. I think it should be the same.
Okay, Thank you.
Because there's no difference. There shouldn't be a difference.
Okay.
Than
Yeah.
a child in the womb or out of the womb. That sounds severe, but that's how it is. It's murder of a human life. But most people don't consider it because it's just a clump of cells, which I think I can understand their perspective, but that's just so heartbreaking for a beautiful thing that God created, for it to just be a clump of cells. Technically, we are too.
Mm-hmm.
We're just out of the womb and more developed.
Not as pretty as I was probably in the womb, to be honest.
But I'm just saying, I don't know how long they should be in prison. That's not for me to decide. That's the court. But I do think that you should be, because it's not seen as valuable as people outside of the womb.
Okay.
So it should be, and I think that would change a lot of people's perspectives.
Oh, it would change a lot of people.
Right.
I mean, people would go into secrecy on having abortions. People would still do it, but it would be...
Oh, people would still do it.
It would be under the
But
radar.
I just want... I'd hope that people at least just have more value given to these children who aren't born. At least them being seen as like, whoa, they're like the same as me right now.
Yeah.
Like, just because they're in the womb, like, we were all there once. Like,
I
you know?
don't remember it, but...
Well, I don't either.
Somebody tells me that I was there.
But we were all there at one point. So, you know.
Do you think it's too far to say it's selfish when the typical woman gets an abortion? Do you think that's too far to say that's a selfish act? Because it is her choosing her life over that life? Would you say that's too far to say?
I mean, would you say that is selfish? Like...
I mean, like, technically it is in your self-interest, so the move is, yeah.
I mean, it's the same. If
like
you...
like separating it from morality itself, you are choosing yourself
Yes.
over something else. So then, yes, on a technical level.
Yes.
On a moral level, that's a harder discussion for me, but that's where I stand. I was
That's
just
fair.
curious where you thought on that.
No, I mean, I would probably say the exact same thing. I mean, if your house started on fire and you and your kid are trying to escape, I mean, it like I said, it's the exact same because the child is just out of the womb than in the womb. So, or let's just take a baby. Okay. The baby who was just born, if that's closer in age or whatever, and you're trying to save yourself or the baby, and you jump out the window and leave your freaking baby in there to burn. Okay, so is that selfish or not? I think that would be pretty selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not the same circumstances, but I mean, the main point is that you're just letting your baby die.
I love that you use the metaphor because I want to build off this.
Oh, no.
Because there could be just a better investment in a fire department that saves such children
Well,
from fires.
that is true. I would agree. Why didn't the fire department do more?
Why didn't the fire department save the kid? And let's not even worry about the criminal processing of such an individual that would jump out the window. And now we just save the kid. What do you think about that?
So let the mom die. Or what do you mean?
Mom jumped out of the window. She's fine.
Okay.
She's living her best life.
She
Broken
doesn't
legs.
deserve to
Broken
be a
legs.
mom. She doesn't deserve to be a mother. Yes.
On doing that.
Yes.
So do
I
you
don't so.
think this is an idea that I just thought of, so it might be
Okay.
incomplete, but what if there was a program in place where no women could have abortions, but there was an opt-in process? Well, I guess it's orphanages where you give your children away, but in a more different sense where there's almost like a state or governmental level where this is, I guess, already the case, where the fireman is kind of the orphan system, you know, where if 100% of all abortions were to be taken out of reality itself, then there would still be babies being given away, and so then, or the babies left in the burning house.
Okay.
And so then we would have this influx of orphans for orphanages, and maybe a better program in itself might be better. I don't know where I'm going down this path, but that's just a
that
thought.
would be an idea. Yes. Yeah, that's an
And I guess
idea.
it's already set up in the sense, so it's not a new idea of having orphanages, but maybe
Or foster care.
foster care as well.
Yeah.
But maybe that's models reworked better so that there's a better chance at a better life for
Yeah.
the
I mean,
kids.
have you looked at how expensive it is to adopt a child
pretty
America.
expensive.
It is pretty expensive.
And
Yeah.
the process is grueling.
The
as
process
well.
is wild. Like, why is that so hard? Like, if you're gonna be for pro-life, like, make that process easier so that somebody else can like have that child that can't
Mhm.
have a child. You know.
Mhm.
I wonder why that is. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know why there's so
I
many
mean, do you think
financial
it's like
barriers.
so they're finding like people that are right in
Going
the head
to,
yeah,
to
that's true.
But I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
they're also finding people that are financially like affluent to like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that probably can be lowered. Like, I don't think that it has to have this high of a bar for you to be financially at to be able to adopt a kid.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, like I definitely
mean,
think it can be.
If you were
lower.
to adopt, like, how much do you think it costs to have your adoption, Sid?
Back then or now?
Now,
Now,
I don't care.
20,000.
20,000 to have you?
Yes,
I think it might be more than that.
I looked it up.
Really?
Oh.
Uh huh.
Okay, I believe that.
But it
She's-
could be different.
Is that difference because it was coming from a different? You came from a different country.
Yeah.
Is that different than somebody?
I would think so.
That's wild. Like,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be that. There
But-
shouldn't be like.
It's like a nice
prices-
car.
It's like, no, it's more like buying different breeds of dogs. You know.
Mm.
I mean, I don't want to say that, but like, think about it. Like, if you buy a mutt from the shelter, like, it's gonna be $200. But if you buy a golden doodle,
Mm.
that's $2,000.
It's
Mm.
yeah.
Like, that's wild.
Where are you going with this comparison, though?
I'm just
I
saying
don't
that.
fully
I'm just saying that
understand.
that's wild. That like it's that expensive to
Mm.
like have an adoption.
Mm.
And don't quote me on that. Last
And
time I
then-
researched it, I thought that it said 20,000, but I'm sure it differs from where you're adopting from.
And then
an
is it a
agency.
luxury to like have a child from a different place? And is that like supposed to be seen as a status thing?
Mm.
You know,
I mean, it definitely could be. I mean, you're seen as like a good person.
Well, like some
that's what I'm
Hollywood, that's a little bit of a thing.
yeah.
Where you
no,
adopt children.
I mean, it's like is that a status thing?
as a what's the word? To like demonstrate your values. What's the word for that?
Oh.
Like grandstand almost, but there's it's like when you post let's end poverty on Instagram, and it's like we're all for ending poverty. Like
100%.
what is
Like,
this
your post isn't
activism?
doing
All
much.
right, all right.
You know,
Yeah.
there's a word for that, like value something. Anyways.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know where I was going with that analogy, but like maybe a better beefed up.
I definitely think that I think there needs to be a change in social services in general.
Yeah.
I mean, working in it's so hard even with kids who are being born. There's a lot of kids who need to be taken into foster care that aren't, just because they're I get there's very many there are many specifics in certain things that, you know, a lot of social services are like, well, that's our line. Like, we have to put a boundary, and that makes sense because otherwise they'd probably put a lot of kids in foster care and then they'd be overloaded. But
Mhm.
I'm just saying, yes, foster care, adoption, orphanages, I definitely think there needs to be more money poured into.
Yeah.
And
Where's that money coming from? Like, is that taxes?
taxes.
Look up. Because now you're fighting a different battle again.
Mhm.
You're fighting a big battle
That's
against the pro-lifers.
that is the argument for somebody of the pro-choice variety, is that we don't have solid systems in place, and so why
Is that
would we?
pro-choice or is that liberal?
Pro-choice.
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Pro-choice or liberal?
Or is that not the right word?
I don't know what
Like
your
left
Pro-choice
leaning?
would definitely be left, and then
pro-choice tends to be more left-leaning, but that's also because it's been politicized.
Right, that's why I'm saying. Is that like the political view of being left-leaning or just like being pro-choice? Like specific pro-choice like arguments include these. That's what I'm
Oh.
saying.
Well, they're kind of intertangled, so it's hard to.
Lame.
I would say both. Well, both probably are like, let's have better social services.
Yes.
I would think smart Republicans would think the same thing, but some don't at the same time. But the argument from that other side of pro-choice is that we don't have these systems. What I was trying to get at was we don't have these systems in place.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe we focus on that first, and then we can talk about
Okay.
where the line is drawn of
Yeah.
bringing kids into this world.
Oh.
And so that the support system, so that we have the support system there first before we decide whether we push these people into the world, is kind of the argument from that side that I hear.
That's definitely the healthcare. And
yeah, that's what you were connecting to with
That's
healthcare,
exactly.
but in general, just like social services and everything like that, as we both agree, need work. Everything needs work, but that could probably use a little bit more attention. And so, kind of one of the arguments from that side is let's beef that up first. Let's get the fire department better before we're making Sally keep a baby in the house and then house gets on fire. So that's kind of the other side from that point of view. And I think you see eye to eye with them in the sense that those services should improve.
I do. I don't necessarily think that like those have to be improved first before we like decide to just, you know, let more children in. But I understand why. I just don't think that should be like a determining factor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But this also could just be like the point that people need to be more responsible.
I agree with that.
And people need to be more
accountable.
And so, you know, if you're not that I don't feel empathizing is just very different for me if you are a teenager and in high school and you know the consequences of, you know, having sex, and then, you know, oh, you're pregnant. Like, that is not the baby's fault. Like, that you chose to be irresponsible. So why does the baby have to pay for you not being responsible? You know?
Yeah.
So there's just many things that I'm just like, and that also brings into the question of like, see, so I said most of the time it's inconvenience, which is true. And with a lot of things, you know, nowadays I'm pretty sure it's like based upon the women's health, like they can choose to abort the baby because the women's health is declining. But a woman can say nowadays, like, oh, I don't feel like having the baby.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of impacting my health.
What do you think about those special exceptions like rape or...
That's what I was going to talk about.
Yeah.
Rape and sexual assault and all of those certain things.
There's another one. Life of the mother being in danger.
In danger. Yeah. See that... Okay, we'll talk about rape first, because I feel like the other one I haven't given much thought to. So, rape is very difficult for me, I would say, because I definitely empathize for women. Everyone should, actually, being raped. And actually, men should just stop it. That's what I have to say. But women who are raped and they become pregnant because of that, I do feel for them, and I do empathize for them. I think it's a little bit much to say, like, I don't know, that they should just abort their baby because they're always going to be reminded of, like, that happening. They're going to be reminded of that happening whether they have the baby or not. Like, trauma just goes throughout your life, whether you have the baby or not, and that's just how it works. And so then I would say it's not the baby's fault. Like, yes, it was not the ideal outcome from a really bad, horrible injustice. But just because that happened doesn't mean that the baby has to suffer because of that too, you know? Like, and I don't want, like, you know, women to constantly be traumatized, but the reality is that, like, you just live with that your whole life. And, like, having, like, the child could be a really good thing. Who knows? Like, I can't dictate that. But my main argument to that is I sympathize, I empathize, I feel very... What are you guys playing footsie or something?
He's getting really close.
Well, touch him a bit.
I sympathize and empathize. I feel so strongly for women who are raped. But then again, it's another life, not just their own. And I just don't know why they have to like suffer because of like
they being the baby.
the baby.
Yeah.
Because someone else's mistake, not hers, the man's raping her. And that, yeah, I mean, it kind of goes into what we were just talking about teen pregnancy. Like if you have sex and you're not using contraception and like it is not like they are a mistake, but they made a mistake if they're not trying to have a child to, you know, avoid that. And so why should they have to pay for that? And that's the same thing. Like, yes, like she was raped and that's really wrong. I'm not going to discount that. But like, I don't understand why the baby has to pay now because of that, you know?
Yeah. I think the separate thing with that is like the woman's decision, which makes it tricky. Where
like, what do you mean?
one situation is the woman or teenager, however you want to,
Okay.
where the woman decided not to use contraceptive and had sex with a boy or man.
Okay.
Where the woman had no choice what the man was and the man forced it, and now
Right,
she is in
rape.
this position. So there is a line between those two.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
I wasn't saying that
I know you do.
The woman who was raped
Mm-hmm.
didn't have contraception. I was like comparing the two different circumstances.
Like both babies didn't decide to come
No.
in.
I don't think any baby decides to come into this world. Like,
Kind-
oh, what?
One swam a little faster.
Okay, but you know what I'm saying.
I know.
I just don't think that they should just have to pay for it, you know? Like, and like again, I'm saying I'm not saying it's not a horrible situation.
Yeah.
I do agree that it's horrible.
Yeah.
And I wish those things never happen.
Mhm.
But I also don't, like, I just don't.
And we would make the
see-
man pay for it, but then now with this decision, the woman has to pay for it as well, in the sense that she has to take care of this child now.
She doesn't have to.
She
She can
would
put
give
it
it
up
away.
for adoption.
Okay.
Or foster care.
Okay.
Like, but, you know.
I gotcha.
Like, at least giving it a chance. Killing it is not giving it a chance.
Yeah.
But at least giving birth and, you know, in all of these situations, being pro-life and stuff, I'm not expecting everyone to keep their children. There's just some people who are really, truly not fit to be parents. And, like, people are sometimes accidents. And I get that.
Mm-hmm.
And that, like, and so I do agree that, like, a lot of the times I think it's the smartest thing to give your children up for adoption or foster care to give them the best chance at life. So I'm not expecting, like, everyone to just keep their children and do, like, you know, and parent them. If that's not the best course of action, then don't do that, you know? But there are other options than just killing them, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why I just, I don't know.
Yeah. So maybe would you hope to see if there was no if Roe v. Wade was overturned, would you hope to see that there was a better investment into our child protective service? I think I already know your answer to this, but at the same time, we have this hand of we're going to make this illegal for the most part, but then at the same time, we're going to give you the resources.
Yes.
Is that kind of how you think
I would say
the
so.
course should go?
I definitely think there should be much more money in this services, resources, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think just in general, even if this whole Roe v. Wade thing wasn't, like, being thought about overturned, I think that this should just be a whole thing in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a lot of money going towards many things as of right now that aren't as important as, like, human lives.
Yeah. And you alluded a bit to the taxation issue, but maybe a way around that, I have a little idea, is that what if both biological parents, while they don't have to keep the kid, had a small alimony payment to pay so that orphanages were financially paid through that to a certain extent? Because we require that of men when men don't want to take care of their kids. So then why not have it more equal where if men and women don't want to take care of their child, we maybe don't.
We should just make the laws, I feel like.
Do you think if you're adopted, then you don't have to make those payments anymore if your child is adopted out of the orphanage?
It's a good question when to cut
Like,
that off. Yeah.
Because, like, do you just randomly get like, oh yeah, you're now free from those
Mhm.
payments? Like your car payments are over, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the government already incentivizes when you take in a kid. While you do pay a little bit to the agency, aren't there certain financial incentives where you kind of get a little bit of money a month? While it's not enough, it's still like a little bit, I think.
Are you talking about Social Security or?
No, like
'Cause-
if you were to adopt and finally once you get that child, don't you get some money monthly from the government?
I don't know anything about that.
I might be speaking about something else that's wrong, but
Because I know that like for people who have disabilities, they get money from the government
yeah,
through Social Security.
I think it's a little different than that.
But I was just
I think in general, I know families get like a small child tax write-off, but I thought there was something in place where if you do take in a foster kid or
I mean, definitely foster kid, I think.
definitely foster kid, I think
I
there's
would
a
say
incentive
so.
program with that where I
Yeah.
think you get some money
I'm not sure about the adoption.
from the government.
I could see that, though.
I'm kind of surprised that there's not a tie from the biological parents to maybe pay a small sum, and it might not add up in the total to that million, but maybe it's like a third of that, so it's something still being
I feel like
supplemental.
that would definitely make
I'm kind of surprised there's
sense.
not that at all.
yeah, I mean, we're all not like people who have kids, so
True.
we are pretty uneducated on
True.
that kind of stuff, you know?
yeah.
I think that the problem that might stem from this, while it sounds nice, is that most likely the people that would be giving these up are low income, and therefore would these payments actually be made? And then at the same time, if they weren't, then that's just like another financial
Yeah.
burden on them. So then would that would, I guess you would hope, incentivize the parents to keep the child, right? It'd be, and we're just kind of spitting ideas at this point, but I'd be curious to see how the reality would actually play out because if I give this child up, I'm going to have to give up $300 a month or something like that. Is it more just worth it to keep it? But then you still probably pay more if you keep it. So I don't know. There's an interesting dynamic at play there, you know.
No, I
but I'm
get
kind
what
of
you're saying.
surprised where, like, if the dad leaves, the mother can file for alimony payments. But then if both parents leave, they're completely, and there's an issue of like they just drop the baby off at the doorstep whole thing,
Right.
so they can't be tied back to them, which you might see an increase in that maybe.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, maybe, yeah, I don't know. That's a
It's very
tricky
complicated,
issue.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see that. It might not work because it is more low income that would be in that position. And so then more daring acts, I think, would be taken, such as just leaving babies places, which might
Or
be...
maybe it just might incentivize people to use birth control.
I think I think that's a good point, but I think we're just so... Like, we just don't have that... there's a word on the tip of my tongue.
Mindset.
That mindset, or just, like, know-how of how, like, the world really works, in the sense of like, if I don't use any contraceptives, I'm gonna have a kid. I don't think
Which
like
doesn't
we
make
fully
sense.
grasp that.
Yes.
I don't think
I
now,
agree.
like us talking about this, like I don't fully grasp what that would mean.
I definitely do.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You fully grasp what it would be like to have.
I can't fully because I'm not in that position.
Yeah.
But I can grasp it, being that I am a sibling of someone who has experienced a similar situation, and now she's a single mom. So, like, I mean,
Through her, you can understand. Is what you're
Yes.
saying. Yeah.
yeah, but like, yes, I mean, when you're a freaking middle school, teenage, high school kid, obviously you're not gonna think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're just gonna be like, woohoo. But just think, how much do condoms cost? Like a pack of condoms.
Less than $1
Okay.
for one.
Oh, okay.
Depends on where you're at.
Okay, well, less
Yeah.
than
They
$1.
can get expensive though.
Okay, well,
What you're
whatever.
getting.
Less than $1 for one condom. Obviously, that's not the best go-to, but in the
Mhm.
spur of a moment, it's at least something. There's also something called pulling out, which is the best option all the time, ever.
I do the push and pray method.
I don't want to hear what you do. Anyways.
The push and
No.
No, I'm so.
No.
You just push it in
Bosh.
and pray.
You leave it?
I'm kidding.
Okay. I was like, you're not kidding. Like, how many kids do you have?
I have 3.
Okay,
that
that
Okay,
makes sense.
The
anyways.
alimony's rough.
Guys.
Sure.
A condom.
Reel it in.
A condom costs less than $1, apparently from Bosch. And so you can do that before you have your fun, and then you don't have a kid. Or you just don't take that choice, that one stop to, I don't know, Walgreens or whatever, for less than $1, and then now you're pregnant, and now you have to pay a whole lifetime over $1 million
Mm-hmm.
to take care of a child. So which one is it going to be? Because apparently a lot of people are skipping out on the 10 or the less than $1.
I'm going
choice.
raw.
Shut up! Ew! No. What?
Do you think that like other contraceptive styles should be available to the public, like vasectomy and like having your tubes tied and stuff like that?
what do you mean it is available?
I mean, it's available, but I'm talking about
Like
of-
free?
like free. Yeah.
Hmm.
Like, should that be free to
That's
like?
a good
A lot
question.
of people do believe that it should be free.
I mean,
Do you?
I would love for it to be free.
I wonder how much it costs.
Cydney, how much does it cost to have a vasectomy?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I can look at it.
Can you reverse getting your tube side though? I
No,
know
you cannot.
Okay. For men,
you
you can,
can-
right?
You can
For a
reverse the vasectomy. Yeah.
yes. But for your...
That's interesting in itself.
I know, isn't it?
Me and my buddy were trying to put our thoughts. This is kind of off topic, maybe. Oh, what exactly were we talking about? Well, it was weeks ago. It was what
also,
if
you have banana in your mustache.
Do I
It's
really?
great.
Yes, you
Leave
do.
it there.
No,
It's so cool.
you just got it. Yeah. No,
could've
you
left it
just
for-
spread it.
There's a little
You
bit.
spread it to the other side.
Dude, you'll find it later tonight.
little snack for later. Oh, it was what if in the 1960s, instead of female birth control, it was male birth control first developed.
Well, I am all for that. I don't understand why the women have to
I was just
be on something
What-
because of men can't pull out.
like as a thought experiment. What would that do to our society? Is what I'm getting at.
Oh, I think it would
Because
definitely change things.
I think there's a lot of big technological developments,
Mhm.
like the printing press, nuclear
Yes.
technologies, and the birth control.
Mhm.
The pill is a huge one.
Mhm.
My thought process goes right after that we saw the sexual revolution, where we thought we could just do as much sex with anybody that we
Do
could.
as much sex.
And then that's when we saw a big sexual transmitted disease epidemic break out. And then I think for the most part collectively we understood maybe that's not the best course for action
Uh-huh.
and kind of corrected after that. I think that was like the 90s or 80s. And then with increased bodily autonomy, it was easier for women's liberation as well, which in itself is big
Yes.
as well. So then what if that pill didn't exist and it was just for the dudes? What would the course of all the events still be the same? I don't think they'd be entirely the same.
I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't be entirely the same.
Yeah.
I do think that a lot of things would change. I mean, I think that gives a great point. Why do women have to be on this hormonal thing for however long you don't want to have a child, and the man just gets to freaking just live his life? I mean, birth control is a serious thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, we go on it to prevent having children, but it does a lot of things to your body, a lot of not good things. Sometimes it's like literally a toss-up between, okay, do I take birth control just to prevent getting pregnant, or do I get off of it because it's like actually like feels worse than
Adverse to me.
like yeah. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there could be
Is this a tall boy now?
definitely think that there could be
Is it the same drink?
Yeah.
How do you fit it in there? Or is there like something at the bottom that's holding it up? Okay.
Do you want to check it out?
Yeah, definitely want to check that out.
I just definitely think that, like, I don't know why it should be like all on the women.
Fits multiple different cans. Almost any can or glass bottle you can think of.
Wow.
Right? It'd be sweet to get sponsored by them. Anyways, can you say your last point again? Just because
I just said, why do women have to like do all of these things to prevent being pregnant when men just can do whatever
I have multiple
they want?
different counters to that, if you will.
Okay, I would love to hear it.
Technology-wise, it wasn't there in the 1960s.
Okay, I understand that, but
so
nowadays,
there's that argument.
okay.
And then also biologically, we're built different.
It doesn't. Okay, so what?
So then, like, this is why I like to try to get down this thought process. Is like, okay, we develop it for guys, and
Vasectomies cost almost $1,000. No insurance, paying out of pocket.
out of pocket $1,000
Yep.
bucks. That seems cheap.
It does.
Yeah,
To be reversed also.
probably another $1,000 to be reversed, I would assume.
No, I know, but like the ability,
Yeah, yeah.
but like having the ability to reverse it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, keep going. What you're saying.
I try to picture like what this reality would be like, because I think it would obviously help men more to spread your seed and not worry about it.
Spread your seed.
To not worry about it. That gets you? You don't like that phrasing?
I don't know if that's what I would call that, but
Mm.
wait. So rephrase what you're saying. Also, we have to go soon, I think.
Do you guys?
Yeah.
Do you have something?
Yeah.
What's the time cap? When do you need to leave?
Probably in like 10 or 15.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my bad.
You're good.
Keep going
Try
what
to
you're
finish
saying,
this
though.
thought, and then we can wrap up.
Okay. It'd be better for men.
I don't
because
know,
They
I
can spread their seed.
It's hard to me to even like put my head in this, but I really would like to, like, there's this thing where the minority of men have had sex with the majority of women and procreated. That idea with
Okay.
the 80-20 principle.
Okay.
So then the upper percentages of high status men, because women go for high status, those men could more freely, I guess, have multiple sexual partners and then not worry about it. From a legal perspective where they couldn't tie a kid back onto them. So I think it maybe to sum up, it would liberate men even more. And then that would therefore push down women even more as well.
If men had the birth control, then women.
Yeah.
Or-
Like, I'm trying to picture what this where it would go, because it's hard to say, because it's a fictitious reality.
Yeah, that's really
But,
interesting.
yeah.
I mean, that's a
Because with women being able to have it, then you can block yourself from any man impregnating you, and then you don't have to worry about abortion or having to carry the kid. But then you don't have that wall of defense system, and then any man doesn't have to worry about tying themselves to you in the sense of a child.
That's really scary on like sexual assault and that kind of stuff.
And sexual assault, it's really interesting. Yeah.
Well, it's not interesting. It's scary. Like thinking about like somebody who like engages in sexual assault with different people that they don't know to any level, like is able to just get away with that. And then I mean, they're going to, yeah, that's just.
I think I understand what you're saying.
That's
I don't
scary.
know. Yeah.
That's really scary.
It's a interesting thought
I think
to
that,
put through.
yeah, you almost want to have like that kind of contraceptive for both sides. And
Mhm.
like
Yeah, I
you're,
definitely
you're
think that
deciding
there
like
should be.
if you are having that or not, but allowing it for men, yeah, there's definitely a scary side to that.
Mm-hmm. And I, I have a point I could bring up that I think we might disagree on, but it might take up
Please.
too much
Bring it up.
time.
Bring it up,
Just
bring it up, bring it
talk.
up.
Just go. Hurry. You're wasting time
When
right
they
now.
develop the male contraceptive, unless it's 100% proven through rigorous scientific testing that there's no negative consequences to it, I'm not going
Like,
to take
what do
it.
you mean negative consequences?
Like any adverse reactions or side effects or downsides.
Oh, yes. But so many women have to deal with the adverse consequences.
Well, here's the thing.
Just because it's on us.
So,
Because you can't keep it in your pants.
because
Because you're trying to spread the seed. Okay, go.
because I made the decision and it is available to me to not have to take it, I would not require any of my partners to have to take it as well.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean,
So, I take an equal approach to it, but if it will harm me, I'm not taking it. And therefore,
Yeah.
I would not require any of my
You almost
partners
want
to
it to be
take it.
like have like several years of like scientific
Mhm.
proven like
No, I agree with
that
that.
it's not going to harm you
Mhm.
because like I don't want to take just random. I
Mhm.
mean, we just took a COVID shot, but who knows what's in that, you know? But
So
yeah.
that's my stance.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't require, again, to repeat.
Then
I would
what
not
about-
require-
Do you want children later in life, Bosch?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then what about... Like, what would you say about all the birth control that's out right now for women? It still has a bunch of negative side
Mhm.
effects. So what would you propose to change that then?
If you don't want to take it, don't take it.
Okay, then we get pregnant.
That relies on the fact that reality itself is sexist and not on the fact that if you're taking the position that I'm taking that this decision is sexist. Reality by itself is sexist. We are unequal just by the basis of how we are set up psychologically and biologically, males and females. Not saying that there should be a proportion that has lesser rights, but just by the way we come into this world, we are set up differently. And so it is sad that most likely more women will, if once the birth control debate is at an equal playing field as far as technology, it just is a tragedy in itself that more likely than not, more women will need to take it than men. Yeah. So,
Okay, I think I followed.
yeah. And it's because almost you guys need that defense system in a sense where, well, for one, I mean, and this is to say, like, if there was no negative side effects, I would be taking it because then I wouldn't have to worry about having an accidental kid. And then also, depending on how the birth control manifests, like males technically do, but it's condoms, but then sex is less pleasurable, because then you have a piece of plastic between. But then if
It's more pleasurable than having a child.
I love children.
Then go have one. Spread your seed.
Spread my seed all over the third.
Stop it. Stop it. It's just a joke. Don't describe it more.
So
Wow.
that's
what a
my
good-
position on
Okay.
male birth control. Mirth.
Control. Yeah. Well, fair.
I don't know if anybody wants to wrap up with anything.
What do
We
you have to say?
Oh, I was just going to say that we definitely don't have a hard look on those kind of things because the way that we're going to choose to live our lives is that we're going to go with the vasectomy route and then we're going to choose to like adopt kids later on when we have the financial means to actually do that. But
Yes,
yeah, it's
let's
hard.
tell everyone on the internet what
Oh,
we're going to
It's
do.
hard.
Oh, that's what you guys are deciding to
Yeah,
do?
that's what we're going to decide to do.
Well, yeah, because I don't want to put
I
my
mean,
body through.
Cydney weighs like 95 pounds. Like,
What does that have to do with anything?
I just couldn't imagine you pregnant.
Could you shoot a cannonball out of yourself? No.
I probably could
Cydney probably
push
You
the
definitely
baby
could.
out.
But-
yes.
Yeah.
But
We don't
I
want to go that
prefer
route.
not to.
Okay.
So
And we also just want to have kids whenever we're financially like
Yeah.
ready to do that rather
Because
than
we're responsible.
well, we're not responsible, and that's why we're going to.
That's
choose
a really
that route.
interesting take.
We're
Wait.
definitely
I think we're responsible.
okay. I mean, to a certain point.
Where you're in a financial stability point. Is that
Yeah.
what you're
We're
saying?
being responsible right
Yeah, I
now
mean-
by
We are financially responsible right now, but
like I just
I
mean
just
we're
meant, like-
responsible by waiting to have kids until we're
oh
financially
yeah,
capable.
no.
That's being responsible.
Trying to be the most responsible that we can.
Yes, because that's how you should
Responsibility.
be as a parent. Mm-hmm.
With
Mhm.
great power comes great responsibility.
And not spread your seed willy-nilly, right?
I would say please stop spreading your seed. Your seeds are unwanted. No one wants your seeds.
Mm.
Keep them in your pants.
Keep my seed in my pants?
Keep them in your sacks. Okay?
Mm.
Nobody wants your seeds.
There's a lot of people that want my seed.
Oh, yours specifically?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Really? A
Mhm.
lot of women.
Oh, tons.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, I don't.
Are
mean
they
to
lining up outside your door, Bosch?
They're outside right now.
Let me
Oh.
see them. Call them in.
I don't want them in. But
Oh, because you're going to spread your seed?
No, I don't want to offend you guys because they're not too pretty.
Why would that
That
offend
offended
us?
you almost more saying that.
I knew that was going to
That offends them.
I was going to say, are they butterfaces?
What the heck does that mean?
You don't know what a butterface is?
That's not nice. I don't even know, but that's not nice.
It's just not good.
She's beautiful, butterface.
Ew, wait, does that mean that you do something to her face?
No,
Say it slower.
she's beautiful, but her face.
Oh.
Like she got a body, but her face. Mm.
We'll wrap
That's
this up for
quite
you guys.
shallow and judgmental.
I'm
and
kidding,
many
guys.
people would
I'm
say
just
your
kidding.
faces
It's jokes.
are
We're-
not very
these are
beautiful
poor
either,
jokes.
so...
Done by poor men. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we're not rich yet.
No, not yet.
We're
Anyways.
I don't think I'll ever be that rich.
All right, you
Oh,
write
God.
this. Oh, no.
So this comes from the previous person that was on the podcast.
Uh-huh.
Which is Cydney, right?
No.
No.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, okay.
My good friend Jesse.
Yeah. What'd she ask us?
So funny. It's a guy.
Okay, what did he ask us? I'm sorry for assuming genders.
You guys know who Harambe is, right?
Oh,
Yeah, the gorilla.
Cincinnati.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's Ohio. Like, that's where I'm from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Maybe
it was
this is
He
a
was
good question
there.
for you
No, I'm
guys.
just kidding.
I'd seen Harambe before in my life.
You
At the
had?
at the zoo lights, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, ask
I
it.
mean, but now he's no longer.
well, this is kind of gets onto that.
Okay.
Who should have died? Harambe or the parents
The parents.
of
I
the
thought-
child?
Dude, all right.
Oh, like after...
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Who
is
should-
it
who
Harambe's
should-
fault or because the parents did not supervise their child well enough? Is the question basically?
Or is the zoo's fault?
I
for-
was just thinking that,
Mm.
yeah.
I mean, like, those are liabilities. Like, that's
the
a
zoo
huge.
should die.
The Cincinnati Zoo's awesome, but
It is.
I think that they probably put a cage over that after
Mm.
that happened. You know.
They
Mhm.
definitely should have been more held responsible.
But
The gorilla's a gorilla. I mean, it's a wild animal.
The parents should have.
So
no,
No,
she's
I
talking
said
about
No,
the
the
zoo.
zoo.
The zoo's
the zoo shouldn't have died, but the
Interesting.
zoo should
The
have been
zoo's-
held more responsible.
definitely
Then
holding some responsibility
Just
in that.
killing Harambe.
If we had to
that's-
say Harambe or the parents, though,
I mean, you don't know how many times we've chanted Harambe at college parties whenever I was like growing up.
Parents.
the parents.
If it had to be.
I want Harambe back. Like,
Yeah.
I want to go party with Harambe.
So we should have executed the parents.
I feel like having a few beers with Harambe would be way better
Yeah.
than having beers with those parents.
Those parents. Yeah.
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 Yeah, sure. It has to be that way.
What do
Does
you
it-
think? I mean, do you think parents are Harambe?
I think parents.
I think
Good,
it's
we're
an
all
easy.
in
I think it's an
agreement.
easy kill. Like,
yeah.
Easy kill.
I'm not killing Harambe, dude. That guy's cool.
Yeah.
That's
Alright.
that's his instinct to go kill that kid. Like, yeah,
I mean, he's a wild animal.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Can't
mean, it
really-
just shows
in
how
the
wild he
nature.
is. Like,
Yeah.
can't expect.
All right,
Harambe.
you write the next question.
You guys both can have a question if you want.
No.
Come on, Sid.
I already made a question. It's his. And
You
my
can
question
even be
was
like-
lame.
What's your favorite color?
My question was lame. That's even lamer.
What was your question?
Hmm.
You just texted me that yesterday.
I'm
or something.
forgetful, and I've met with many people. Oh no.
It was.
No, yours was good. People had some good answers to that.
Oh.
That I can't remember right now, but
I forget what Sid's question is. I even listened to it.
Mine was like if you could go anywhere in the world
And money wasn't
and
a
money was a
problem.
problem, where would you go?
Oh, New Zealand. No doubt. I mean, money
We-
isn't
we
that big of
will
an issue.
Still
Mhm.
go to New Zealand at some point.
Yeah, if we don't have a kid. Right off the bat, we can go to New Zealand.
Well, that's all dependent on you, buddy.
I think that's a us thing, not just a Camden thing.
If you want to get a vasectomy soon,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but like there's other ways to not have a kid.
oh well, yeah, it's called abstinence.
Pull out. Oh. Oh.
Abstinence is
Jeez,
the
Bob.
best birth control.
I don't think I got it after this whole conversation.
Bosch never learned it.
I've never learned.
He
I never
just-
got a health class though. That's real.
He learned to
That's
just
wild.
spread his
I got one
seed
in 5th
wherever he
grade
went.
where they're like, you have hormones, but that's about it.
Yeah, 5th grade's health class was funny.
I don't.
I think that
I don't think the birth control thing should be talked about in 5th grade.
I don't.
Definitely high school. But
I don't know. There were kids in my school that were having sex in 5th grade.
Oh my
Whoa.
gosh! How do you even?
Do you want like
I-
a picture?
I thought.
I don't want a picture. I
thought
think
guys-
I think that's illegal.
I think that
thought
is
they're. I thought they're like the things
No,
don't
dude.
drop until.
It doesn't matter. That thing will push into anywhere.
Ew. Okay, just write the dang question and let's go, please.
So do you have a question?
No, I
don't
don't.
have a question?
Just have Cam ask a question. What
Mm.
is it? Or write down the question. I'm out. Goodbye. Thank you for
Alright.
the conversation.
Bye, Sid. All right.
So the question is,
Mm.
how do you do your coffee, and what does it say about you?
Mm.
Because, yeah, how do you make your coffee? Like, how do you make your coffee, Bosch?
And how does that speak to you as a
How does
human?
that speak about who you are as a human? Because I'll
Alright.
tell you how I make my coffee and how that speaks to me.
Okay.
But first, I want to hear yours.
Cheap.
Yeah, cheap.
I go cheap. I don't drink coffee too often. Lately, it's been hitting me weird where I just can't do it
Yep.
because of even one cup, I'll get the high, which I like, but my crash is hard.
Yep.
Like the crash outweighs the high, and it also has affected my sleep negatively pretty hard. So I've just kind of not done coffee.
So are you making it at home? I mean, because that has something to do about who you are as a person. Are you making it at home, or you make it go get it?
Okay.
Or
Okay. I see what you're saying. When I do make coffee at home, I just do like a cold soak of the grounds
okay,
and then strain that and have the concentrate and then mix that with hot water.
cool.
And I think that also speaks to me because it's convenient where it's already set in my fridge and I don't have to warm up a coffee maker or a kettle or anything
Yeah.
like that. And I just throw my little hot water maker on hot where I don't have to tend it, pour hot water and coffee, and then I have my coffee for the morning.
Cool.
So that's mine.
Mine is definitely lazy. I mean, I have like a coffee grinder,
Okay.
like right by my coffee pot, and then I basically unfill like a Keurig cup, and then I put the coffee in, and
Yeah.
then it's done from there. I don't do any cream or sugar because
Yeah.
I'm just basic, trying to get out the door
Mhm.
and trying to be lazy as I
Yeah.
can.
And be quick with it.
Be quick with
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
Be who I am.
Yeah. And you don't need those extra calories with the cream.
No, dude, I'd get enough
black
of them from
coffee.
beer. I don't need extra calories in general.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, thanks everybody for listening.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we made some sense in this conversation. Sid has one last thought.
Goodbye.
Good night, everybody.
It was great meeting you, Bosch.
It's nice to meet you too.